All right, so this next guest here we met each other in, I had to look it up, 2018 in Philadelphia, the uh, the Liars Club Oddcast podcast that at the time was part of Project Entertainment Network, which I ran, and we had a good time. We kind of kept in touch over the last 7 years or so on social media, and so first off, you've had a a lot of releases in the last several years. I know you're. Seems like every time I turn around, you got a new book that you're promoting, a new book you're releasing.
Well, I had to go back and re-review how busy you've been, and I, frankly, I just, I mean, I'm not even approaching how busy you've been. So, um, yeah, we've been busy. It's, you know what happened with me was that that when we met back in 2018, it was for a book launch, and that oddcast that they had. I think they might have had 3 or 4 people lined up to do their oddcast that day for the Liars Club. It was
Hmm.
me. I think it was you. I think your wife was there, and I think also Jonathan Mayberry was going to be phoning in. So it was a busy day for the
Yeah.
Liars Club, and I know they're not that active anymore. I don't know that they've had any of the oddcast lately, but in any event, that's we did that. That was my second book that had been published, and between sometime after that, um, well, actually before that, my first book was a book called Scars on the Face of God. Um, biblical horror. I'm not the least bit religious, but it was biblical horror. And
Hmm.
um, the small press I was with, they closed up shop. I republished it myself, and then this Jane's Baby book came out. That's the book that the Liars Club was having me in to talk about. That was
Right.
um, it was a Roe v. Wade thriller, and and then after that, I mean, you know what happens, Armand? I mean, you've been writing for years. If you get to the point where you find somebody who's interested in your work and they like it, they kind of the next question they have is, "What else you got?"
Right.
And and for me, I had a lot of stuff that fell into the "what else you got" category. So so the and I think we've spoken about this publisher before, Seven River Publishing.
Hmm.
They signed me for uh, 2 books initially. Um, they were in one series. Third book to come out afterwards, but the third book they dropped on top of the initial two to make it a 3 book deal was the agreement that they would republish my Scars in the Face of God horror book, which I was ecstatic about because it
Right.
was I mean, it's getting a new launch, it was getting a new cover. It was just, it was just a nice deal. So they did that, and it's kind of how we got started. I had those 2 books that were from that series that they signed me were from a series called the Blessed as in BLESSID Trauma Crime Scene Cleaning series. And they gave me effectively, there were 3 books in that series I ended up getting out of that. Initially, there were only 2 identified. Um, and and I mean that got started. We did okay with that. There was another series that they wanted me interested in, and then what happened was I was very fortunate. The At the time when Seven River was starting, there were I might have been maybe the first one of the first 6 or 7 people that they signed, which means that they really were. They had some really good authors, but they were willing to take chances on different people that
Hmm.
early in their company's business. And the fellow who's responsible for it, Andrew Watts, that's Watts. Andrew is an author himself, and busy writing, busy running the operation, busy trying to grow his business, busy hiring people, busy putting a number of authors on into the stable. And after I went through a couple of books with them, he had I really do. I was very fortunate because what Severn River was trying to do on the front end of their existence was label themselves as a small press or an intermediate press that was trying to brand their authors. They were trying to set up people they would pull in, and they would try to have these people promote their brand for them, help them create their brand. It was just, a great concept. It was just
Right.
it was benevolent in addition to, and it was a two-way street. So over time, Andrew Watts, the proprietor, the owner, the chief cook and bottle washer, although he had a number of people working for him. He has different editors that are professional editors that come in and do and I've had one guy maybe 3 or 4 times, and Andrew came to me and threw a carrot out there for me. I was very, very fortunate. He had a series that that he had written 2 books for, and what he explained to me was, and he sends me this email. He says, "Chris, I've got this really wild idea, and you don't have to commit to anything. You don't have to say yes. I won't feel upset if you say no at all. But I had this wild idea that I've got this series that is languishing, and I've had people come to me and they wanted to have additional books in this series." And he told me the name of it, and at the time, I'm going to get the name. It was the Max Fend thriller series, Maxfend, and and 2 books have been sitting out there, did well, and Andrew has a great audience. I mean, he has a really, really good audience behind him. It's excellent. I'm sitting here thinking, where do I sign at this point? Because I did not have that audience at all.
Right.
So he did me a real solid with it. We co-authored the first book. And maybe you and I can talk a little bit later about this because I've seen you've co-authored with somebody else is doing. You guys are doing well with this one series. I'm not sure if the series is still running, but I saw the series had done very well. So, so he had an idea for a novel. He wanted me to. I tweaked it toward the end. I made some significant adjustments, which he was very gracious at accepting, and we wrote the novel together. But typically how that works. He was the lead person. He's the name coming into it. I was doing, I was taking his story, but I was fleshing a lot of it out, and he kept me honest. Andrew is a former Navy helicopter pilot. And that is a lot of how he started his Severn River publishing house. Severn River is near Annapolis, and it's down around the D.C. area. So that's where he was getting the name. Military, doing a lot of military stuff. So he was just very gracious. Offered me to say, "Would you want to co-author this thing with me?" It was a very basic name called Air Race, and I was delighted to do that. We worked together. Interesting, worked very, very well. I met a bunch of different people. And then after we got through with that, after that thing came out, he came back and he was even more gracious. He said, "Chris, I'm willing to let you have this character for nothing. No, you're not going to pay me anything for this. I'd be willing to let you do, we'll start with 2 books, additional books we won't call it, it had to be, he wanted it to be a different series. He wanted to be able to cut off the existing series with that character and start a brand new series with the same character, but they were my books."
Okay.
That gave me, I was the author. That was it. My author was that was me. I wrote the entire 2 books, and they became the series called the Maximum. Oh, geez, Maximum. I can't even remember the name. Maximum Thrill series, which with Max Fend, who was the character in it. The character himself is he's a billionaire, but he's somebody who because he's a billionaire, the United States government loves him, and they have used him numerous times for espionage and different types of items. So I put together two different stories to work with that series. We went with them. It's what I classically understand is every time you have a series, if you're able to duplicate the success of the first book in the series and the second book or the third book, I didn't do that. We did not do that. They weren't as popular. They sold, but they weren't as popular as the first book out of the series. which is totally understandable, I guess, by the way things I've seen with people doing series. So that's how we got started. I got started with that. Had this material in backlog. He wanted to work with the material I had. Kind of makes you look like you're prolific. If you want to count, it took 10 years to become famous. That's obviously what was that they say? It took 10 years for me to become famous overnight.
Yeah.
And so and clearly nowhere near famous, but that's what gave me the running start. I mean, I really got a running start with that. And all of a sudden we have people like you coming back and saying, my goodness, this guy seems to be putting a book out every other year. And that, just ain't how it works. You're doing that, but I know that ain't how it works, generally speaking.
Right.
So I was very delighted with that circumstance, and I have another book on submission with them right now. We can maybe talk about that later, but yeah. So that's how that's how come I look prolific. It takes me a long time to do books, really does. But it made me look like I was a freaking superstar, being able to crank these things out. Wasn't how it worked.
But it's the perception. That's sometimes
Yeah.
that's all we have to
Becomes
hang our hat on, the positive of that.
Yep. So that was good. I mean, we like that. We still like that. I'm still getting royalties. We like that as well. So that works out. It works out well.
And obviously, you're still going to be working with them in the future as well.
I'm hoping at this point it's it's touch and go. I guess I've had that series did well. My original series with them did not do as well as that. These guys are great. I love these guys. I would recommend if anybody is looking to get their foot in the door with it. They need to be good writers, but they need to have some. If they have definitely if somebody's got some a backlog of things, or if they're trying to move their material around, they want to find other publishers to maybe give their material new life. They love this. They love getting a material where there is a series that's lined up that is possibly languishing, and people have the rights to it and potentially go to him, and they would take a look at it. Doesn't mean like they've gotten to the point where they initially were open all the time for submissions. They don't do that now. They close out. Their process for this year is closing in December. I'm not sure when they're going to open up again. I was able to get this book back in, even I'm an existing author, so they were willing to do that. But they're a little bit pickier nowadays. When I was able to get in there, and maybe they were less picky, but nevertheless, I'm quite happy it got to that point.
Yeah, and they've definitely over the years they've definitely grown. They've definitely put out some quality books. And for me, I always look the first thing you do visually, you look at the covers. And there's so many small presses that just, I mean, honestly, they put out some awful covers, and they never do. They always have some really, really good on brand, like you said, really good covers for their stuff, really eye catching. So, for me as an author, that's one of the things. I've had some deals with some awful covers, especially in the beginning, and it really, it hamstrings the book itself. Nobody wants to read it because this covers are so good. But you have some really good covers, so kudos to you and that team over there.
Whoever the cover artist is, which they've never, they do play. They're protective about the people who work for them, because they want to give them that work, and they want to make sure they keep them busy. So they'd rather try not to focus on other people's work. But I did my first book, The Scars in the Face of God, book that came out originally in 2008. It was my first, I first time author, first time published author. It's like you just, I'm thankful they're publishing me. The cover was horrible. It was just not good. They felt they did their best. The initial cover was just, I have them. I still have some of the books in my in a cardboard box. I'd hand them out for free for somebody if they wanted those books with those covers. But yeah, the cover, the story. The cover clearly is going to be. It can either really sell the book, or it can, if it's not good, it can turn potential readers completely off. And that's why it is so important to have somebody get a good idea as to what they want to put in front of the public to have that person actually click on something and decide, let me check this out.
Yeah. Well, because we judge a book by its cover. I mean, that's, we're scanning, whether we're on Amazon or we're out at Barnes and Noble going through books. You're looking for something new, and you want that something to really pop
Yep.
at you. And that's sometimes that I'm turned off by books because the covers are so bad. And somebody will say, "Oh, have you read this book?" And I read it. Chances are the book's probably going to be good. But I initially did not buy that book because the cover was bad.
Right.
And of course, on the other end of that, we've all read a bunch of books that the cover was easily the best part of that book.
Yeah, I don't have any of those I can think of, but you're right. Where you feel like, oh my goodness, it was a bait and switch. It's like I picked that up because I like the cover. I mean, I'm going to pick up something that I'm going to know who the author is, unless it's somebody who is a peer author, and we're all trying to get feet into bigger doors than we're in already. And
right.
So I'm willing to look at a lot of material, even if it turns out it's not as appealing at first blush. So that's covers are great. I don't have. The most recent book I have out there is not with Severn River. It's with Black Rose Writing, and it was a book I could not get Severn River to publish. They were politely trying to tell me they initially said they wanted it, and then they backed off after I explained what more of the content was. And I said, I want you guys to make sure you know what's in here. And at that point, when I was speaking with Andrew about it, he decided that, you know what, if you've got other ideas, let's go with the other stuff. We'll put that in the back burner. And ultimately, somewhere down the road, we didn't resurrect it. I did find Black Rose to do it. It's a book called, and this was out in April. It's I Heard You Paint Cowboys, and it's an art heist book. But frankly, Armand, what it really is, it was really an avenue for me to put a protagonist out there who was a female bounty hunter, fugitive recovery agent. That would be the official name for her, and she's former Pennsylvania state trooper, but with dogs. She's a canine state trooper, and female bounty hunter out there who just absolutely abhors semi assault rifles, assault style rifles in the hands of civilians. Just does not, and she wants to go out of her way to kneecap the gun lobby to somehow get those guns to keep those guns from continuing to go into the hands of civilians. I mean, this is a person who's a bounty hunter. She lives and dies by the gun if she has to. So she doesn't have any Second Amendment rights problems. She has nothing like that. Does not like assault style rifles. That was the gist of the gist of the novel, because she's figured out a way to kneecap a certain gun lobby agency. And when I explained further to Severn River, and they were listening to it, one of the struggles you're going to have is you might recognize is that you may immediately piss off half your potentially buying public.
Right.
And publishers they can have whatever morals they want to have about things, but it's like they want to put something else going to sell, and they don't want to immediately remove half the public potentially. Yep. And that's a large portion of the public who might say, you know what, I'm not going to pick that up. Right. So they wouldn't do it. Black that's Severn River. Black Rose Writing would do it. It's sitting out there. It has not done what I was hoping it was going to do, because it has. Frankly, it's a great. This is me saying this, but it's a great plot. Lots of turns, twists and turns, and it just has not. It hasn't found its audience yet. We're hoping at some point and I'll mention one other thing about it, Armand. The funny thing about this was that the book allows me to say that I am an International Thriller Writers Award winner, and it comes from the fact that in what the ITW does every year is they have all kinds of contests, and they
Right.
also have a contest that's called the Best First Sentence contest.
Yeah.
I put that one in, and that thing it won. The first
Oh
sentence
wow.
it won. It got some coverage on their website. I mean, there was more than one first sentence winner for 2024. There might have been 4 or 5, but hey, ITW says you're an award winner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Award
Yeah.
winner.
You definitely run with that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you go.
definitely. When I first saw the book, when you had released it, I immediately came to mind was um, I Know You Paint Houses, the mafia, the
Exactly.
hitman thing, and I was like, that's definitely got to be on your mind some kind of time.
Well, it's first of all the original title of the book. This so much story behind it. We'll talk some other time. But the original title of the book was not that title. It's a title that I had 2 publishers, my existing publisher, Seven Rivers, say they wanted the book initially, and Black Rose Writing saying they wanted the book also, and they stayed with it. But the initial title was America is a Gun, and it's from a poem by a UK author by the name of Brian Bilston. Now, both publishers, one saying yes, then saying no, but then the second one saying yes, both said, "Nah, that's definitely not going to be the title of your novel. We're not going with that."
Right.
So that one was sitting out there as and I still love the title. I mean, frankly, it's in your face. Is what it comes down to. So I didn't. I wanted to stay with that title, but I'm not sure I was even going to go with this line of thinking here, but was going to stay with that title. They just didn't. They didn't want
Right. All right. Let's get because we're running over, which is fine. You and I could catch up for the last 7 years. Who are some of the thriller authors that you grew up on? Who were some of the inspirations for you?
Well, let's not going to leave it open just to thriller authors. I think you could respect the fact that you write in 3 or 4 different genres or more.
Right.
My mantra is the thing I write is the thing I write. I
Mhm.
mean, so I'm writing in horror, I'm writing political thrillers, I'm writing crime thrillers. So I love this front end thing here that I love baseball, and I love reading about baseball. I love baseball stories, all that kinds of stuff. So the book that is always number 1 on my list is by an author by the name of Steve Shilstone. Guaranteed you do not know Steve Shilstone. Shilstone. And the reason because I don't he's known for fantasy. A lot of people who are into fantasy and sci-fi, they'll know him for that. But he wrote a baseball novel
Hmm.
called Chance, and it's not a long novel. It's maybe 220 pages. I just absolutely love that book. It helped me get my voice in when I'm writing. It just got me to the point where I was able to just say, in so many words, screw it. I mean, that's the type of voice he had. And so I love Steve Shilstone. Other authors I love that are thriller authors. It was interesting. I watched one of the videos that you had out here on YouTube with one of your prior interviewees. Let me see if I get his name right. It might be John David.
John
Um,
David. Yeah.
yeah, he stole my fire. He loves Carl Hyacin. I love Carl Hyacin.
Yeah. So
I
do I.
haven't read anything by him in past few years, but some of his titles are they're just they're just crazy. He has ensemble characters. He has one character that, in one series that pervades a lot of the series, and it's a guy that is like almost has no reason for living, but he's out there. Skink, Skink. That's the character, and the guy. He's typical example of Florida man. And so I love Hyacinth.
Yeah.
Um, I also like in horror genre. I love Dean Koontz.
Yeah.
The Odd Thomas series definitely got my attention. He is just outstanding. I mean, the difficult thing with him is the same thing with Stephen King. Is whatever words they write, they're going to get into the book. They don't get a lot. They don't get a lot of editing. So,
Right.
so and for the most part, everything works. But but they're not fine tuning what they write. So you're gonna get books from them that are going to be thick. And so Steve, I don't have Stephen King on my list, but I love Stephen King. Now, some more obscure names are going, but these won't be obscure. I'm not sure if you know Sean Cosby.
Oh yeah, I've hung out with Sean several times. Love him. Love his work.
He's great. I love Sean. He and I were with the same publisher when Jane's Baby was published by the same his first publisher as well, Intrigue Publishing. And Intrigue has decided to close up shop. And Sean Cosby just has done incredible work ever since. Yeah. He's got something that's option is going to be made to a movie. I mean, Sean's just out there. And I saw him at a convention. Great guy, just an absolutely wonderful person, just a great guy. And you have to be really happy for his what he's done with his material. And they took his agent was able to cut a deal for the book that originally was with Intrigue Publishing, and that came out separately. My darkest prayer, I think it was called.
Right.
Now, others guys are. I think it was one or two people you may or may not know about. I'm not sure if you know the woman author Alexandra Sokolov.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I go way back reading her horror stuff, leisure book stuff.
Exactly. Yeah. So I love that Alexandra. She what is actually, or Alex, I guess she goes by, but what's actually happened with me is I like to come up with the plots and clearly, and I'm not my novel is going to be plot driven rather than character driven, but I do feel I put a lot of character traits in there that make people happy about it. But they're plot driven rather than character driven. But so much of my material is going to have, right or wrong, is going to have a social conscience with it. And so I told you about I Heard You Paint Cowboys. That's anti-gun lobby, and that's how it became. That's where I was going with it. I definitely was keying off I Heard You Paint Houses when I made that name. I said, this will make somebody look at it. And I'm from Philadelphia. The guy who was the killer for the mob hitman that they did the movie Irishman, that he was from Philadelphia. So I just leaned into it. So I took that. But Alexandra Sokolov has got that Huntress series. She's got other material out there, and she's gotten very vocal with the past few years with a lot of things that are happening out there politically. So we try not to go into that, but I like her material. I like what she's doing. That another guy that you probably have met, Armand. Well, you did meet. I'm sure you did because he was part of the Liars Club. John McGoran.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you had a chance to read his most recent novel that's out there called The Price of Everything. And
I have not.
I would take a look at it. It is it's a very unique premise. John has, again, he's an environmentalist, I think, from what I can tell as far as what his writing is typically. He's always going to drop something in there about the environment. A lot of his books are like that. The Price of Everything talks about what has happened with the apocalypse has happened and virtually has happened. Well, maybe not. I mean, we've had significant issues and the world is totally turned upside down, and you cannot, credit is gone. The only thing that's good nowadays is cash money, period. And so that is the premise of this novel that he has, and his main character is a courier who carries cash. So I love him. Let me see. I have one or two other people. I got Sean. And I'm going to mention Andrew Watts, who is the guy who gave me, I was so happy with. Andrew writes a lot of military work. He's also co-authored material that is going to be somewhat of a not paranormal but supernatural perspective. A little bit. It flies in the face of not being standard military. It's got some other play to it. So I love Andrew because he is very particular and handles all of the details very well, and kept me so on target when it came to writing that novel with him called Air Race, because I didn't know diddly about flying planes or helicopters, and he clearly kept me on board with all that stuff. So I mean, those are the people I guess I would say we're talking about.
Now, you've just given me a lot of, and especially the viewers, a lot of great names there. Are there other people out there that you think more people should be reading at this point?
Oh, that's a question. You didn't give me a chance to think about that one. Um, well, there's a fellow who's his name is William Donahue, Bill Donahue. Bill is he's an editor for a local magazine, but he writes horror, and he goes by William J. Donahue. He is, in my opinion, very gifted literary writer who wraps his stories around horror. He's he's a major snake guy. He loves snakes. He loves reptiles, and a lot of his novels are about reptiles. So have been about reptiles. So Bill is out there with forget which press he's with right now. Manta Press maybe is the newest one that's coming out. He had Cosmic Egg Press. He's been with them, small presses, not big presses. Right. So I like Bill, and there's a woman author who has her own publishing company called it's called Speculation Publishing, and her name is LCW Allingham, Allingham. She writes paranormal, and she just recently authored or I guess edited an anthology that just came out about vampires, which it's a little, I don't know, vampires. Trying to resurrect that is a good good circumstance. But I like LCW. The L stands for Lindsay, but she goes by LC, and Bill Donahue are people that are newer. They've been out here for a long time, but it takes 10 years or so to become a sensation overnight. So,
exactly. I will definitely add them to the list in the show notes afterwards. Chris, we'll have to run into each other at some point in the future at a conference or at a convention or something. Well,
you're down in Florida nowadays, so
yeah, I'm down in Jacksonville. I used to come up every year. Back up. I'm from Jersey originally, but haven't been in a while. But
yeah, I'm going to be at. You ever been to PhilCon?
No.
Philadelphia Convention. Okay, they're going to have that in a couple of weeks. There's an anthology that I've got a short story that's in, and they want us to come and read from the anthology. So I'll be doing that next November 22nd on Saturday in Cherry Hill at some hotel in Cherry Hill. So and that's a con. That's a big. It's a sci-fi comics. I mean, it's got a lot of activity out there. All that kind of stuff. Oh, I'm getting the music.
The lawn guys just showed up.
Oh, okay.
So I guess we'll have to end this. But thanks for coming on, and I will talk to you again.
Armand, thank you very much. Best of luck. Break a leg, all that good stuff. See you soon.